Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another reaction video. So today I'm going to be listening to both the opening and the ending since they're both the short versions for Kaiju number 8. I've been watching this series just like I have many others this season. Skipped the intros and outros for this reason alone, and I've been loving the series so far. It's been an absolute riot, so I'm really excited to hear what these songs are going to sound like. I can't tell you how high my eyebrows raised when I heard YUNGBLUD and OneRepublic were doing them. So I'm really interested to hear what these are going to be like. Without further ado, let's go. Ooh. Ooh, the visual's really cool too. Is that the actual visuals? Oh. Oh, shit. Loving this heavy beat so far. The visuals are still really cool. They kind of feel AI generated. Not entirely sure. It might just be the way that they're processed through. Some of the filters look like that. Ooh. 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 I'm seeing a lot of wobbliness, so I'm thinking even more that this is probably AI generated, or at very least, maybe this video is upscaled. It seems very high fidelity. I'm trying not to let that distract me from the rhythm of the groove. I'm loving that song though. Like, I know I talked a lot through it, but I really like the sound of that one. Okay, so I double checked afterwards. It turns out I was using an unofficial upload that somebody had interpolated into a 60 FPS BS, and I'm not a fan of that because it causes those artifacts that happen in the video, and they're extraordinarily distracting to me. As far as I'm concerned, animator and artist to visual here, the interpretation of the original is always going to look better, because when you add post effect shit to it, you're just kind of ruining the fluidity otherwise. Even if you're trying to add fluidity, it truly doesn't. It creates a different pace, it creates a different feel. It feels, in this case, like the fluid was moving really well in it, but then anytime any character with any fidelity or detail showed up, it got worse. So visually, I love the original intro. The whole interpolation 60 FPS BS, I'm never really a big fan of. It can look okay in some cases, but I would say 90% of the time it looks pretty shit. Just as somebody who can actually see those little imperfections in it, I know that I'm in the minority there, but just again, animator to viewer, watch the original at very least. If you haven't watched the original one, it flows better in my opinion, and it feels a lot more tight. As far as the music goes, I enjoyed the shit out of this song. This was a really cool beat. I loved the more war drum energy it had in it. Slow paced, didn't have to get big, didn't have to get super high energy. It felt large enough on its own. It had a lot of it felt like a monster walking, you know, like it had a constant rhythm that was very weighted. It didn't have to speed up in order to make you feel that adrenaline rush. It did that alone with, frankly, the pretty minimal production on this. There was some synth, there was some strings, it was mostly just that and the rhythm, and of course his voice. And I like the lyrics of this. The whole production value around this song was really clean. It's surprising to hear songs like this every once in a while, and the visuals fall into this as well, when it doesn't spoil a bunch of stuff about the plot. It just gives you the basic visual of what you need. You can put it together through this song and through this video that there are monsters in this world, and there is a guy that's trying his best to make the world better. As an intro song, it has a lot of power. As visuals, it has a lot of power, and I love the aesthetics put in here, especially considering that the show itself does not really have much, if any, CG, aside from I think one or two of the kaiju moments does, but mostly it's been 2D, so that's actually really cool to see that they had somebody handle this in 3D and then leave the rest of the show to be a more traditional style. I'm very intrigued in this series. I want to see more of it as it goes on. It's definitely not one I'm going to be dropping, but that said, we should hear the ending as well, shouldn't we? Let's hear OneRepublic. Completely different vibe, all right? Visuals and music are polar opposites. Ooh, all right. I mean, didn't really expect much else. It's OneRepublic. You got to have that poppy sound to it, right? Oh, I'm vibing with this. Okay. I didn't see myself getting so into this, but... Ooh, the claps. Okay. I'm really liking that beat on there, too. Like, it's basic, but when you can sit in that pocket rhythmically, it just kind of takes you along for the ride. It's been a long time since I've heard anything from OneRepublic, so this is kind of an interesting thing to hear how they've evolved over the years. I haven't really heard much of them since I was like in high school. It's been close to a decade, probably. Man, okay. All right. So first off, visually, I love that they did this sort of like contrast with the opening, how this one is so much brighter, it's more calming, it's showing the happier side of the situation here, whereas the opening showed the darker one. Sometimes that does flip-flop. I've seen a few series that do either or, but never really this aggressive. I think this is the most like hardcore flip between that I think I've ever seen. So that's really impressive to me. And musically, of course, this is definitely different than the usual stuff that comes out of anime openings or endings. It's a Western group and it has a very heavy pop sound to it. Of course, having pop music for an outro or an intro isn't new for anime. It's just usually they're not from the West. So that makes it even more impressive and different, unique in that way. And the crispiness of both of these on production value. Of course, you got pretty big names taking care of these, but especially that drum kit. I really love how like flat and crunchy that hi-hat was. The snare was very slappy. It didn't have too much pop or punch to it. And also the break in there was kind of interesting, how they went to the whole claps and had that as kind of a bridge to the next part. And it's just really weird hearing a group that I've been familiar with for about a decade, maybe a little longer, doing an outro for an anime. Why? Like, where did that come from? Where did that conversation happen? Like, I want to be in the room where that happened. Who called who? You know, like, what an interesting take. Is this because the mangaka was like a fan of OneRepublic? Is it just something contractually that they felt obligated to do? I'm not sure, but I love the ability to blend these worlds together. And as a whole, it's really interesting seeing this zeitgeist shift where like Western groups are being supported in this way and utilized in this way, and maybe we'll start seeing more Eastern groups be utilized in this way, kind of similar to how the K-pop scene got really big this past couple of years in the US. And I'm not sure where the music scene is going, but I love seeing everybody just collaborate on a bunch of different stuff. It doesn't matter where you're from in the world, music is music. It is one of the most universal concepts that we have as a human race. So I love seeing it utilized across borders like this. There are no borders with music. It's just awesome. I love seeing this stuff. But I think I've been yapping enough, so thank you all so very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, I'll be doing these throughout this entire week. I have a couple out already. Pretty much all of them will probably be full version only on my Patreon and Ko-fi because of the whole issue of copyright over here. So the ones that are here are most likely going to be copyright struck and therefore have to remove the music, but it kind of depends on all that. So if you want to see the full versions, go over there. If you want to sync them up here, you can do that. If you might have already had to do that for this video, I'm unsure yet with these songs, but I'm yapping again. So if you like this video and you want to see more of these and you want to follow me and support me, you know how to do all that, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!